Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. I'm here on the East Coast, so it just turned afternoon for me. My name is Jack Starr, Manager of Solution Consulting here at ShipHawk. My background is in warehouse operations, warehouse engineering. I've helped customers of all size and scale optimize their warehouse through different processes, process improvement, through software implementations, and through just thinking about what makes the most sense in their facility. So like Kelly said, today we're going to focus a lot on the picking side. So I'm excited to see these answers to this poll.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and let's share our results here, Jack. So it looks like we've got kind of a 50-50 split, a little bit, a few more kind of 60-40. The good number of our audience is picking many orders at a time, but we've still got quite a few that are picking one order at a time. So I think this will be a really great topic and hopefully something everybody can kind of learn from today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are happy to get this started and yeah, we'll go ahead. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and we're going to just talk a little bit about it, not a little bit, a lot about our picking. So let me get this started and we'll get this underway here. All righty. So ShipHawk, I always love to start this slide because this is who we are at our ethos, right? Highly scalable warehouse and fulfillment solutions that fit your company, not the other way around. So what that means is that during an implementation where we're understanding your business, we want to take a look at how do you pick today? What's the product look like? How many orders are you picking at a time? What are ways that we can make recommendations to you and your team, once again, about a better and more optimal way to do that? I love to say our implementation team has decades and decades worth of experience, and they're going to bring that to that implementation, provide some best practice consulting. Our team and myself, a lot of us have seen many, many, many different types of operations, varying from apparel to healthcare to auto parts. So we have a wide variety of knowledge that's going to be able to make sure you see and think about things that you may never have before. And that's what's really important. Like this says, right? To fit your company, not the other way around. We're not telling you you have to fit yourself to our software. So let's get started and talk about picking. So the first thing that before we even get into picking, what's the first thing that we like to think about on the ShipHawk side is, number one, opportunities for consolidation, right? This is the first step for us as an automation and optimization platform to be able to provide you a seamless experience to where, hey, as orders are coming in, our system is looking at them to combine like orders, maybe shipping to the same customer or the same distribution center. So that way your operations team, they see that as a single pick, a single pack, and a single ship record. Instead of having to manage in this example, right, we can see 5 orders are being consolidated. And here we can see we're reducing that cost. We're reducing or improving that efficiency, and of course delighting customers because, hey, they see everything packaged into one box. On the operation side, you're saving a lot of that labor cost of having to go pick 5 individual orders when we could just pick one here. So love to start talking about this feature, and if this interests you, definitely come talk to us after. Let's talk about how we can reduce the amount of picks you have or amount of orders that you have to pick individually. So now from here, we are in the meat of picking, and I always love to start on this slide to talk about the many different ways in our solution to pick. So the first step of anything that happens in ShipHawk on the picking side is that we want to profile your orders for commonality. As your orders are entering in from your ERP, like a NetSuite, Acumatica, an Infor, anything like that, we want to bring those into our system and we want to profile them to say, hey, how should we pick these together? So we're going to look at things like SKU, carrier service, size, weight, zones, lines, units, priority, customer record, any attribute that exists on that order, we're going to have access to take a look at and say, hey, this is how it should go through the fulfillment process. So now let's talk about some of the different ways that we actually can pick. So of course, the title of this is talking about 6 different ways we can optimize your picking, but I'm really going to focus on 2. I'm going to focus on cluster picking and batch picking. In my experience for customer shipping e-commerce type orders, maybe on a Shopify, a WooCommerce, a Magento, or as Amazon fulfilled by merchant, cluster picking and batch picking allow us to group multiple orders together to then pick efficiently. Not so much as at an order consolidation level, but more of a picking operator efficiency level. So let's first talk about cluster picking. Cluster picking is a group of multi-line, multi-quantity orders picked together onto a cart. I love this slide right here because this really details what that looks like. Where I have 8 totes on my order or on my cart, each of these totes is an individual order. Another way to think about this is in the real world, right? Let's say that I have this past weekend for the Super Bowl, I've got a party, and let's say I've got to go to the grocery store. But let's say a friend isn't able to make it, and they say, "Hey, Jack, can you grab me a couple things?" Well, let's say that on my list, I plan on making a pasta dish and grabbing a bag of chips to help out with the side. But then my friend, they're making nachos, so they also need some tortilla chips, some salsa, and some cheese dip. In the real world, when you go to pick essentially and grab all of your goods at the grocery store, would you go through the grocery store, grab your entire order, grab your chips, walk down the salsa chip aisle, and then go check out, and then come back to the beginning and go grab your friend's salsa and cheese dip and chips? Probably not. When you're down at the chip aisle grabbing your bag of chips, you're most likely also going to grab their tortilla chips, their salsa, and their cheese dip. That's a really great way to understand and think about our batch picking here, is that when we go through the pick path in your facility, our WMS says, hey, you've got an order that needs one of these, and then maybe right next door, they need 2 of those for a different order. So if you think about in a lot of operations where maybe I have 500 orders a day and I'm picking each of those independently, I have just made 500 trips through my pick path, through my warehouse. Think about how much efficiency ShipHawk is going to be able to provide to you just with this feature alone. So in an e-commerce world, now instead of 500 trips through my warehouse, maybe I'm only doing 200. We just cut that in more than half. We reduced your cost while increasing the efficiency and productivity of your team by increasing the number of orders that they're picking. So now we can pick more orders in a reduced amount of time. Really, really good in a lot of warehouse examples. So then we can talk about batch picking. This is a group of single line, single quantity orders with multiple SKUs. So think about, I order 1 water bottle. I order 1 cell phone. I order 1 singular SKU. There's probably a lot of other people that do that as well. Instead of having to pick them into an individual tote, how about we group them all together and pick them either onto a pallet or into a tote, right? You can see right here, I'm picking single line, single unit wave, where each unit is going to be placed onto my container or tote. And then at the pack station, we're going to be scanning our items and getting an individual pack list for each product. Our system knows behind the scenes, hey, you picked 10 items total. You need 1 for this order, 1 for this order, and 1 for this other order. We don't need a pick ticket. We don't need anybody to remember that. As long as they are using our system in the handheld and following the process, we're going to take them to scan all of the records and then tie them to the back end of those orders to give you a really efficient pack out process. So we're going to first start and actually get into ShipHawk WMS and start with one of our pick processes. So let's get in here and let's talk about ShipHawk. So I'm now inside of our WMS environment. What you can see right here is on the left-hand side is our administration or sort of desktop view. And on the right-hand side, you can see a handheld emulator. Our solution is web-based, meaning you don't have to install any app from the Google Play Store or iOS. We utilize just a web URL like this to log into. So that way, no matter what device you're on, you're going to be able to connect. So the first step of getting into picking is, of course, always first coming into the pick assemble process. So the first step is coming into this and hitting the release wave batch. This is where we have the ability to filter, maybe by specific sets of orders. Maybe it's Monday morning and you actually want to work on your priority orders first, your UPS 2-day or your FedEx next day or some other type of rush service that you have in your operation. This is going to allow you to first look at a specific order type, look at a specific carrier service, priority, destination, or customer category to say, hey, this is what I actually want to execute first. In my facility, I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, I don't want to do that. I want to look at all available work. By hitting the search button, I'm brought into the unreleased tasks. This means this work is ready for my floor team to complete, but I have not let the system know that it is available to actually work on. So what I can do from here is I can now see all of the order and group characteristics. So like I said, RWMS is bringing in all of your orders. It's going to optimize them based off of those different attributes. If we see that multiple orders have the same product, we're going to automatically group those together. So that way, I would expect I go to a location with multiple items or multiple orders, and I pick all of them at the same time or simultaneously is a great way to think about it. So from here, what we can see is we can see the type of order or type of group that we've got. So we've got batch picks, those single line, single quantities. We've got cluster picks right here. We've got even discrete and singular order picks. That always happens. A lot of operations may have replenishment orders or wholesaler B2B orders that they want to pick independently, maybe because it's going LTL and it's 1 to 3 or 4 or 5 pallets or a full truckload. Our WMS is extremely flexible, extremely dynamic to the point that we're going to build all of these business rules into our system, and your team walks in Monday, Tuesday, every day of the week morning, and they're presented with this. They do not have to decide, hey, I think this order should be picked like this, or I think this order should go with this order. That is a responsibility of a warehouse management system. And if your warehouse management system doesn't do that for you automatically, then I'd say we definitely should be talking and to figure out how we can get you on our system to save you all that time. So where we're going to go from here is we're actually going to release an order and then we're going to get it picked. So in our system, it's as easy as somebody coming into this screen and making a determination of, I want to release these orders. Maybe the answer is I want to release all of them. I could always hit select all right here, which will absolutely grab every order and hit release selected. I don't want to do that today. Don't want to get rid of all my data, but I definitely want to find 1 or 2 that I want to pick here. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of these orders and look at these. We've got batches, we've got clusters. I can see here the priority, right? That's a field we can sync from your ERP. We can look at carrier service. So you can see here, I've got a standard FedEx ground order. But just below, down here, I've got a rush FedEx 2-day service. That was because our WMS understands that. Once again, during an implementation, we're setting up rules that say, hey, maybe FedEx 2-day is a rush service, but maybe UPS 2-day is not for some reason, right? Maybe because FedEx is on the other coast and UPS is rather local. This is going to be how we can really automate a lot of those decisions for you, really giving you a lot of that time back on those manual decisions. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an order, and let's say we're going to pick this cluster right here. It's as easy as making a selection and hitting release selected. I can always assign to an operator if I need to. Very common that customers have a key accounts that, hey, only this really veteran picker or operator knows how to actually complete that customer's requirements. So I want to make sure it gets assigned to them. Always going to give you that level of flexibility here. So now I can go ahead and hit release selected, which is now going to make it available inside of my handheld. So you can see we get a confirmation screen. And if we ever printed out any paperwork, some customers may need specific pick tickets or specific documents to travel with that picker. And that is what we can support here. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. And now from here, I, as a picker, go into my handheld and I hit the pick assemble button. So now from here, I can hit begin picking, which is now going to bring me into that next most important wave, batch, or cluster pick, or any order of that type. So you can see here, this is a task type order. It's a single order that we're going to pick independently. I don't want to do that. I actually really want to show off a cluster pick so people can understand how picking multiple orders at once actually happens. So for me, I can go ahead and hit skip this cluster or batch. And now I can say, hey, I only want to see a cluster pick. Now I'm going to hit begin picking right here. And now I'm presented with a couple with those options. I can see I've got 3 totes. I need to travel to 9 bins where I need to pick 9 unique items for a total of 18 units. So I'm also going to go back and actually show this in the order administration screen. So I'm just going to quickly grab 565, 8841. I'm going to search that batch, and then I can look at all of the different orders that exist. I've got 3 orders. And one of those actually is a consolidation order that I was talking about earlier. So you can see this is a CIF, or consolidated item fulfillment, or consolidated shipment, however you want to think about it. And you can see it's consolidated from these 2 orders right here. They're shipping to the same destination address with the same service type. And by service type, I mean parcel versus LTL. We typically do not consolidate an LTL with a parcel order unless you give us specific instructions to do so. So now from here, I can see see that, hey, this top line was actually from this order. These bottom two lines with different products are from a different order. But to me as a picker, this is a singular order. I am really not really privy to, hey, this has multiple orders on it. I don't need to do anything different. And that I think is really the magic of our system is we want to make this as easy and simple for your operations team to use. We're not throwing a lot of information at them. We're throwing the right information at them. So let's start picking this. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue right here, which is going to begin our cart setup. In ShipHawk, we believe in predefining carts and totes to allow the system to assign them to orders. I can tell you a lot of systems do it this way and some don't. In my opinion, I believe this is definitely the best practice. This is how we can track user KPIs and metrics across your picking operation because we know exactly what cart, what order, what totes they're picking into, how long it's taking them to scan all of these things. So absolutely a best practice in my eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and scan my tote system. You're going to see I'm typing some things in, but ShipHawk WMS is fully scan based. If I had barcodes for everything I was going to work with today, I could absolutely scan any of them. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and scan my cart ID. And then from here, it's about scanning my totes. You can see here, I've got 3 totes. I'm going to go ahead and scan that first one, and it is a random tote ID. Oh, wow, there you go, some error handling. By chance, I scanned a tote that is not empty or already in use. A great way that our WMS handles these exceptions and says, hey, you should probably put this to the side and figure out systematically what is still in this tote if there's nothing physically. So I'm going to go ahead and just scan my tote. And now I'm presented with scanning a shelf ID. Shelf is a static location on this cart. Think about as you drag and wheel this cart over to the pack station, they're going to be taking totes on and off all throughout the day as they're packing it out. Those totes may not be placed back in the same order every single time. And really, we don't care. We don't want somebody to have to worry about that. By scanning the shelf ID, we're going to present your operator at the time of pick with, hey, put this into this tote onto the shelf. Probably the same way a lot of us have our socks and our underwear in the same drawers at home, right? It's a way for us to always know where that tote exists every single time. So I'm going to go ahead and scan that shelf ID right here. And now I'm going to scan the remaining totes. So I've scanned the secondary tote, and now I'm going to scan the last tote here and hit continue. Oh, looks like something happened here. All right, we're going to try and relog in and do that again. We're going to try this guy right here. Oops, I'm going to try this guy and begin picking. All right, so let's try this one more time. Okay, that tote is being used again. All right, so now we're ready to begin this pick tour. So what we can actually do is review our setup details. This will tell us, what totes we may need or what totes we have with what shelf alias and what actual picks are going to occur. So let's begin this pick tour right here. And the first step in all of our processes, especially picking, is to always scan verify the bin location. So I'm going to scan verify this B8 3B2 location. And then next is to scan verify the item or any alias related to it. I always emphasize that a lot of operations, they have UPCs, vendor part numbers, manufacturer's part numbers, FN SKUs, item name labels, anything under the sun. As long as we can link them inside of your ERP into our WMS, we're going to be able to scan them right here and now. So I'm going to go ahead and scan my 100373 product. And then lastly, I'm presented with where I need to stage that and scan it into. So this is very common in our industry, best practice to always scan those 3 records. And so now I'm going to scan my bin or my tote. And you can see I've got this JT838831 and notice it's on shelf slot 2. So this is not taking you from order 1, then order 2, then order 3. This is taking you in the optimal sequence based off of where your items exist inside of the locations. So for me, I like to scan shelf ID. It's always the same on every cart, and it's a way for me to really be consistent. So I'm going to scan that right here. And now I'm actually presented with an interleave cycle count. So we've picked that product. We've scanned the bin it's in, we've scanned the item, we've scanned the tote it existed in. But now our system is asking for what is called an interleave cycle count or a count back. This is where, if in a location, our WMS sees that you have low quantity, which is a item level configuration. So maybe your water bottles, like the one I've got right here, that's 20 units or less is considered low quantity. But then maybe you have a larger product like laptops, and maybe it's a bigger or smaller number for those. This is once again flexibility that our ShipHawk WMS is going to offer you. So now from here, we can actually count how much is physically remaining. And I always loved this example of, well, let's say systematically, I had 10 of these water bottles, right, that I'm selling. But what if I'm physically only counting 6 right here? We absolutely want the operator to capture that 6 of what's physically there. This is how we're going to tell you, hey, 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 operations team, there could be something wrong with this. We found a variance in an active pick location. So this is a really great way that ShipHawk WMS is going to allow your team to really stay nice and tight with its inventory because we're being proactive. We're proactively counting your locations and your inventory before you need to, right? It's I always say you rather have it not need it than need it not have it. Something that my parents always said growing up, right? And I'd rather have this cycle count be done before I have a problem than when I need or actually do have the problem right here. So I've scanned that to confirm, hey, there's 6 units that are physically there. If there's a variance, that's captured and reported somewhere else. We're not going to, it is not the picker's job to resolve that. We want the picker to just continue on picking, can follow through that process. So I'm going to go through and just continue to pick some of these products. And I always love to show off the speed of ShipHawk WMS. You guys and everybody on the phone can hopefully see that I'm never having to wait on the system to load. That is because our system is built for that sub-second response times for really those high volume scaling operations where every second matters. So I've got another interleave cycle count right here. And so I'll say that there's 11. And I'm going to continue on through this pick process. And I'll show you the next thing here once we get a little bit closer to the end, which is some of our exception handling. So you can see I'm moving through this, nothing ever spinning or I'm not having to wait on it. So let's say we now get to this location, right? I've walked up to it and I'm going to go ahead and scan that bin location. I'm going to say, hey, all right, I'm here. But now I'm looking for this product. I cannot find this 5006662 item. We have a couple of different ways to resolve that in our WMS. Number one, and first and foremost, is to find an alternate bin. We want to allow your operator to actually finish and complete that pick, even if it means going somewhere else to get it. That is always going to be more efficient than skip picking and having to bring it back later. So if I hit this find alternate bin, unfortunately, I don't have any other locations with this product that I can actually go pick from. So, hey, it's saying you need to take the appropriate action. You need to short skip it. You need to short pick it or partial pick it. So I need to rescan that bin location right here. And I need to tell the system, this item's not found. I have no idea where it is. So from here, I need to tell the system how much if any, I could pick. So I needed 2 eaches, but I can't find any, so I had 0. This is really useful for customers that are maybe shipping larger quantities. Maybe I needed 100 or 1,000 and I can only find 30, 40, 50, 60. I want to grab that to reserve it for my order. And so that way I can only find the missing pieces later on, that 30, 40, however much is missing. So I'm going to go ahead and say, hey, there's 0 available to me. I cannot pick them right here. The system says, hey, that's totally good. Let's still scan that tote that had that problem to confirm that's the tote that had it. And so, yes, we'll do that here. And then you'll see later on what kind of reporting this actually is. So an early cycle count, because we've told it, hey, there's something wrong. So we're going to say 0. And now we're just going to complete this pick. And you're going to see at the end what happened to that singular tote that had a problem. Right? That operator no longer has to write a piece of paper down or a sticky note, put it in the tote or paper pick ticket and say, hey, this is missing. There's something wrong. Our WMS is going to report on every single thing that's happening. All right. So we're going to continue on through this pick right here and just keep on going. I don't think I have too many picks left. So I'm going to really try and blitz through this. All right, so we have now gotten to the end of this process to where now is the time where our WMS says, hey, there was a picking exception happened. So what this means is they detected a problem, right? We had a problem actually at the pick location. So let's discharge this to a resolve or hospital location. In a lot of warehouses that we walk into, right, you've got your receivers, you've got your pickers, you've got your packers and shippers. But the operations that I see that are being the most successful and staying on top of their day-to-day work, they always have a dedicated inventory specialist or inventory control team that is focused solely on making sure the rest of the operation is running smoothly. Our replenishments being done, our cycle counts being done, or any locations that have problems actually being looked at and resolved. So what that looks like right here is, hey, we've got this singular container. We had 3 when we started. One of them needs to come off because it had that problem. So I need to stage it at the resolve location. Once again, that's usually a location with your inventory specialist team or inventory control team that allows you to, you're focused and trained on how to actually resolve this. So I see a question. Are these features only available when you purchase the WMS through ShipHawk? And the answer to that is yes. This is our ShipHawk WMS functionality that is not available within any form of NetSuite. This is only available inside of ShipHawk WMS. So that single container that had a problem, that has now been removed from my cart. I now have 2 containers left. And these actually are going to be staged at a pack station. So if you're using ShipHawk WMS, you're familiar with pack stations and workstations. It's a way for a operator to log in and use our solution to actually generate pack lists and shipping labels. Right here is where we're staging it at that specific station. So I have multiple pack stations right here. So you can see I've got pack.1, I've got pack1.p. That would be used when we actually have a priority or rush shipment. Our WMS is going to direct your operator to that location. And then we have Amazon, right? Maybe you think ship Amazon dropship or Amazon FBA or FBM, right? Freight orders, international orders, or special orders. Our WMS is extremely flexible and is going to direct your operator to the proper location every time. So that's it. I've now completed that pick task for that cluster pick. So let's actually go back and maybe find one of those. So if I go back here into the administration screen, I can always look at something that was picked and not packed. So let's just find any random order here. I actually won't find the one that we picked, and let's not do that one. Let's do a little bit smaller of a one right here. Yeah, this one looks good. So you can see this is what the pick task get updated to. So we see the container it was picked into. We see the bin that it was finally staged at. So you can see this one was a problem. We had to send this to the resolve station. So let's see and figure out why that was. I can always click into the pick details right here and see what actually happened. So I can see there are about 8, 7 products for this that some were ordered, but I can see here, looks like we're not able to pick this TC Pro item from this B9 location. There's something wrong with that. We need to send an inventory specialist over there to make sure that the product is going to be okay going forward. Like I said, a cycle count, an inventory adjustment, a replenishment, anything under the sun there. But this gives you a simple way at the order level to say, hey, this is what could be going wrong with this order. So I'm going to take a question here I see is regarding units of measures. What is the best practice for cut to length item like hoses, chains, and anything else? Can ShipHawk convert unit of measures? We do have some level of unit measure support. We need to understand a little bit more from your team on how that cutting process is working. Are you using work orders, or is it purely a picker goes to a location and picks that? Hey, and as I've said multiple times, this is part of our discovery and implementation process. We want to understand all these things that are challenging to you and your business and give you a systematic solution for that. And sometimes that could be us handling it with a process. Sometimes it could be us reporting on it so you can make better decisions. There's a lot of variability there. And once again, our implementation team is going to help walk you through that step by step. So we've now picked an order. We can see all the details here. If I go back into that release wave process and hit that, I'm going to have the ability to actually look at, hey, what is actually in progress or what has already been assigned out. So these are ones that we essentially are in the middle of the picking process. What I want to highlight next is how our short picks, when they are short picked and put to those resolve locations, what happens to them, right? That's a question I get is, do they go off into the ether? Or is it their sole responsibility to fix them? And the answer in some ways is yes. So by clicking into our short picks being resolved screen, this is where all of those containers are going to fall into. I talked about those inventory specials and how important I truly believe that they are to the operation. This is one of the main screens that that team should live in. Before the end of every day, they should be in this screen reviewing, what orders had problems? Can we get them resolved? Can we get them shipped out? So from this screen, we have a lot of functionality related to it. So I can see all of the orders, all of the order numbers that are related to this issue. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take one of these order or containers or totes and go into our pick process and hit pick assemble. And then here we actually have a systematic process, resolve short picks. So I'm going to scan the container that had those short picks. You can see the system recognizes it because it exists here and hit continue. And then from here, I have 4 main actions that we can achieve. We can always pick it, move it from inventory below. That essentially says, hey, we can find another location to pick this product from. We can always hold or suspend for future receipts. Something we're not going to talk about today is in our receiving process is that we have a cross-docking feature where if we see outbound demand for a product that we only are now receiving because we don't have it anywhere in our facility, our WMS will direct that receiving operator to stage it to a hot pick or a cross-dock location that will then allow your team to automatically and really efficiently pick it. We also have the ability to move to a container or move a container to packing as is and essentially short ship it. Depending on your ERP and what configurations are set, right? Maybe we automatically send that notification back up to your ERP to let them know that we're short shipping. And then lastly, we can always cancel that order, return it to inventory. This is going to take you through the order cancellation process. All of the picked inventory will be moved to a return to stock location where it will be staged, and then your team can take it through a directed put away process. So that was exception picking. I love to show this off because we're not just telling you, hey, something happened, but we're also going to take you through the resolution process for that. So the last thing that I always love to highlight here, because we didn't talk about it too much in the picking process, but is picking full pallets, right? Picking from bulk storage or a floor stack location. So just wanted to highlight that we absolutely support that. So if you have some form of bulk storage or floor stacking, then we're going to be able to go in and scan that license plate, use that as your tote, and then essentially pick that. And I'm sure there's a lot of questions about substitution and lots and serials, and that's absolutely something we can talk about in uh, uh, further and deeper in the future if that's something that your operation needs. But always love to highlight that, yes, if you're picking full pallets for any type of order, that we're going to be able to support you with a really clean and simple process, very similar to what I just showed today. So the last step of looking at all things picking would be back under exceptions under the unallocated orders and unallocated items. I always love to highlight that, picking is a big part of it, but we need to make sure that the information is being sent correctly. So our orders releasing on time, right? Maybe they're not because you don't have inventory in the right locations. Instead of you throwing your hands up and saying, well, I don't know what's going on, we have dashboards related to this. So you can see, I ordered some of these goods. I ordered 1, I've allocated 0, I've got stock here, I got 3, but it looks like somebody's already reserved 2 of those. So there could be some other issue. Maybe that's not the proper location type because our WMS supports different types of locations. Maybe you want to pick from the floor for your e-commerce orders, pick from the racking for your wholesale and B2B orders. There's a lot of flexibility and rule logic that we're going to implement for you. And then it's just part way for your team to, hey, how do we get this put back into the system so that way we actually can execute the picks and release them to the floor. So that is really all and everything that we can do here on the picking side in ShipHawk WMS. The last thing that I want to cover, because a lot of people ask is, well, hey, I print or I pick with pick tickets today. How would this work in ShipHawk WMS? We have those handheld, have handhelds that we can absolutely recommend for you. Always love to talk about how we have a lot of compatible hardware. We recommend and best support Android-based devices. So we can present to you and help you out with what some of those options are that our other customers are using. We've assembled and compiled all of those into one website, and we can definitely get that over to you. So that way, hey, these are handhelds that other customers use and are successful with. So with that, we've got a few minutes left over here. Happy to look at and take any questions now, or if you have questions after this wrap up, you talk to the team and you're like, hey, that was really cool, but how did this other thing work? Please send us an email at learnmore@shiphawk.com. But with that, happy to answer any questions here in the Q&A section for the remainder of our time.
Thanks so much, Jack. I feel like everybody got their questions answered. I feel like that was really thorough and probably gave everybody a lot of information. Looks like we've got a couple coming in. It looks like Linford's asking, are you able to demonstrate zone picking, how the operators pass orders onto the next zone?
I'm not able to show that today. That is absolutely something, though, we could get in a one-off demo and absolutely walk through. We support all types of zone picking, most common just being pick and pass. So yeah, that is something we could absolutely get another demo on the books and show you. Can
Awesome.
ShipHawk support picking based on lot numbers, not serialized? Absolutely, we can. ShipHawk supports all types of inventory attribute picking, serial, lot, and expiration date. That falls into our FIFO, FIFO, LIFO. We support all of those types of picking. So if that's a struggle, then let's absolutely get together and talk about that. And then lastly, is lot traceability available with WMS? Similar answer, absolutely. We would receive lot during the receiving process, we would enter in the lot or serial numbers, and then we would track those through their movements in the warehouse. And then at the time of picking and or packing shipping is when we typically recapture them so that we can report them back up to the ERP correctly.
Lots of good questions.
Yeah, lots of good questions.
Any other questions for Jack for today? It looks like we've covered everything that we've received so far. So as Jack mentioned, if you do have questions that come up after the webinar, you want to send those over to us, please email us at learnmore@shiphawk.com, and we can certainly get your question to the right person and get the best answer for you. And we will be sending out a link to the recording of the email, or an email with a link to the recording. That should probably hit your inbox within the next 24 hours. So we'll try to get that to you as soon as possible. And I think that's it. Jack, thanks so much for all the information. Even I learned something today about our different picking methods. So it was some really good content. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, absolutely. Roy, I see another question from you about demo for put away and shipping in the future. Roy, let's get on the phone. It sounds like you've got a lot of questions, a lot of things in your warehouse. Let's get together and have a good deep discussion on your specific business needs.
Yeah, we'll definitely, Roy, we'll have someone reach out to you. All right, well, thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And please fill out our survey that'll pop up here at the end. And thanks again for joining us.